Okay. All yours.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 8th River Falls City Council meeting. First thing we'll do is say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance
to
to the flag
of the United
of the
States
United
of
States of
America
America
and to the
and to the
republic for
republic
which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Christy, can we please have a roll call?
Yes, Bierstead,
Here.
Downing,
Here.
Kanye,
Here.
Morset,
Here.
Bodine, Plunkett,
Here.
Watson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have approval of the minutes from the November 24th meeting.
Move approval. Second.
Any questions or comments? Christie, I have a first and a second on the approval of the minutes from the November 24th meeting.
I'll start the voting with Mr. Plunkett.
Aye.
Odine.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Kanye.
Aye.
Morset.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Bierstead.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Okay, next we have approval of the bills with Mr. Morset.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I make a motion, we approve the bills in the amount of $1,363,617.10, subject to the comptroller.
Second.
Questions or comments on this? Christie, we have first and a second on approval of the bills.
Start the voting with Ms. Odine.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Morset. Gagne.
Aye.
Watson. Bierstead.
Aye.
Plunkett. Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Okay, next we'll move on to public comments. John, do we have anybody in our audience tonight?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
I'll turn on the council chambers here. There we go.
they can come forward and state their name.
Hello, Benjamin Fox, 2529 Powell Avenue. In your packet tonight has the 3 agricultural leases with surrounding farmers and entities. One of the principles of community development was the highest best use. There is a noticeable thing right now. The UW system was a recipient of an $8 million grant, of which $2 million is going to University of Wisconsin River Falls to study water and soil quality. And it's disappointing to see that there is nothing in this packet to increase soil and water quality in city limits. The city is looking at over $500,000 to remove sediment from Lake Louise. So it is a real cost when there is no soil and water conservation measures. The one property on FF actually has monitoring wells that you could use to, track nitrogen and everything else. The other properties have severe erosion possibilities with steep slopes on the edges of them. And the fact that the university has sat there and done double this tillage all across its property there with no way of controlling it. In the future land use of Man Valley, there is berms, easements, and everything else that could easily use to study edge of field, water quality, and phosphorus and nitrogen. So as you sit here and look at the city's cost, even right now, looking at different wastewater treatment plants and how you can get rid of nitrogen and phosphorus out of the ecosystem to productive uses, I think it's important for the city to realize that as a pass-through thing as these leases have been, it's important to realize as the owners that you have responsibilities to the greater environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Anybody else, John?
Nope. Nobody else here in the council chambers.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Can I
Yep.
Hi to Mr. Fox there.
Mr. Plunkett?
Mr. Fox, you really do bring up an important issue there. And that the university in the crop and soils department has had, at least in the past, some people that took a leading role in these issues. And I thank you for bringing it to the council's attention, the importance of proper land management and soil practices, and hope that we can move from that towards the Wisconsin idea of using that incredible resource we have in the university and extension for the benefit of the city at large. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yep. Mr. Gagne?
I have an announcement. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve our community on the River Falls City Council, District 2. This decision has been one of the tougher decisions of my time on council. While we have accomplished much for those we call family, friends, and constituents and business owners, the call to serve carries on. The next season of my life will continue focusing on my roles as a husband, dad, my church involvement, and my full-time job. After lots of prayer and consultation with my family and friends, I have chosen to take a step back at this time from my council duties. Effective once the next council person takes seat. The next election is on Tuesday, April 6, 2021. I filed non-candidacy on Monday, December 7th, 2020. Nick Caro has identified he and his family have decided to run for District 2 City Council. I personally support Nick in his desire to selflessly continue his service to our community. He currently serves us on the RF Housing Authority Board. Nick Caro is a strong community member and a family man. I believe if elected by the people of River Falls, Nicholas Caro would carry out the duty selflessly and with the community at heart. I appreciate all the support folks have shown me in the same desire to continue to make River Falls a great place to live, work, and play. I am publicly supporting Nick Caro. I've had many conversations with him over the years regarding things in the city of River Falls. I think he would do a great job. So I'll carry out my term, and then I'll pass on the torch to whoever's elected next.
Okay. Let's move on to consent agenda then. First thing on the agenda, excuse me. First thing on the consent agenda is acknowledgement of the following minutes. The Park and Rec Advisory Board from 11/18 and the Library Board from 10/5. Next one is a resolution accepting the public improvements for Sterling Pond. This is the second edition, which would give us a 14-month warranty period for these public improvements, which would begin tomorrow. Next one is a resolution approving lease between the City of River Falls and the Peterson Dairy Incorporated. This would be for the County Double F property. The next one is a resolution approving the lease between the City of River Falls and Dan and Annette Johnson. This is for the Whitetail Ridge corporate property. This would be 31 acres of agricultural land on the bluff atop of the Whitetail Ridge Corporate Park. And next one is a resolution approving the lease between the City of River Falls and UWRF out in Man Valley. This is for 80 acres of agricultural land out there. And the last one is a resolution regarding West Central Wisconsin Biosolids contract extension. This resolution would allow the city administrator to give notice to West Central Wisconsin Biosolids by November 30th of 2020 to preserve the city's right to non-renewal while maintaining the option to commit to an extension at a further date. Does anybody want to pull anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull consent agenda item number 4.
Okay, Sean. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull consent agendas number 5 and 6 as well.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 2A and B, 3 and 7.
Second.
Any other questions or comments on the ones we're approving? Christie, we have a motion for first and second for approval on consent agenda item 2A and B, number 3 and number 7.
By Odine, a second by Watson. Start the voting with Mr. Gagne.
Aye.
Stead,
Aye.
Aye.
Downing,
Aye.
Odine,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Mr. Downey, you pulled number 4.
Resolution approving lease between City of River Falls and Peterson Family Dairy Incorporated on County Double Road F property. In the packet, it reads, maintain current annual lease payment of $2,200 for a 2-year term, January 2021 to December 2022. Financial terms will be revisited for year 3. My question for our city administrator is, how did they figure out that $2,200 lease amount? What was the equation they used?
Yeah, and I can mention this for all 3 of the leases that were on here. So, Mr. Stiff from operations works with these leases. He had asked me what my direction was for these renewals, and my direction was, given the other priority projects we have in the city and things we're dealing with, I would like to just renew at similar or same terms as we have, and then we'll come back to revisit these at a later date. So I believe that essentially the formula is the same as what's been used or carried forward in a long about way. Each of these leases was entered into at different points in time during the city's ownership. The only one that I'm aware of that was competitively bid was the Man Valley at the time. The other ones have generally been what I would consider neighbor leases, given access. So in the case of the Johnson lease, access issues, inability of others to access the property. And in the case of the Peterson, it's kind of a historical neighborly rental. And so we didn't. So my direction was to not go out for bid or seek big escalators at this point. So each of these, we have farm service, that's probably not the right term. We have maps, might be USDA or other maps of the farm and soil types, and they all have varying soil types as far as farmability, so to speak. So Man Valley is obviously the prime property as far as yields, and the rest of the properties have marginal or kind of okay yields, but have not been seen as a big economic boon for either the city or the farm lease holder.
So this relationship has been a little bit over a period of time where that's been part of the understanding, I'm taking it.
Yeah, again, to simplify it, we were looking for a caretaker for most of these properties, with the exception of Man Valley, which is a property that has a pretty substantial farm lease on it. The rest of them we have some avoided cost on the part of the city from maintaining, and the thought is that the property will be kept in at least as good a condition as what we've had it in the prior year or so.
And if I could ask one more question, how do the people who are leasing them feel about the agreement? Do they feel it's fair?
Yeah, we haven't had any concerns related to the leases, with the exception of Man Valley. At times, the prices for Man Valley, based on the yields and the market prices for crops, have been. Those 3 renters have talked to us about should we be lowering or lowering the lease rates, but I'm not aware of any feedback from the Petersons or the Johnsons that they're dissatisfied, nor would I expect them to, because I think the price is extremely reasonable. In the case of the Johnsons, I'll just point out that property was quite a mess. And so essentially the Johnsons in the first couple of years kind of tamed the wild, box elder and whatever else and holes and things we had up there. And so, and they're the only property owner, I think, that has practical access to that property.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Mr. Mayor, I move approval for the crop lease agreement, County Road F.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Was there any other questions on number 4? Yep, Mr. Plunkett.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that I appreciate Mr. Fuchs raising the issues that he did in regards to the city's responsibility to be a responsible steward for the land. And I apologize that I had not thought of those issues before. So I haven't looked at the soil survey map for this area. I don't know the slope or the soil types in question. This is also true for number 5 and 6. And I just want to note that the city can, I think, set an example in the future with how we do land management that would be beneficial for all people in the region. And I hope that we do take a look more at those considerations when time allows. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else on number 4? Christie, we have a first and a second on consent agenda item number 4.
First by Downing, by Morissette. We'll start the voting with Morissette.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Plunkett. Gagne.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. And Mr. Plunkett, you pulled 5 and 6.
Mayor, same comment on those as I related to number 4. And I don't know that this is the appropriate time. I don't have anything prepared to address those issues that were raised. But I think do put it on our planning, and it may already be. I apologize for my lack of knowledge in this area of what the city is doing long-term with some of our larger land use planning. And so I do think that's an important issue to look at, and I appreciate that being raised.
So I need a motion for 5 and 6.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve item numbers 5 and 6.
Second.
Anybody else have anything on these two? Christie, we have a motion on agenda items consent agenda items number 5 and 6.
First by Morissette, a second by Morissette. Start the voting with Mr. Watson.
Aye.
Plunkett. Bierstead.
Aye.
Morissette.
Aye.
Gagne.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Okay, next move on to administrator's reports. Scott, if you've got anything for us, or if council's got any questions for Scott?
Just a reminder that this is the last planned meeting of 2020 for the city council. So appreciate everybody's patience and flexibility and persistence with the format. If we made the switch pretty early on, and I think we've tried to serve the public and you council the best we can. So I appreciate your willingness to do that. And certainly want to give kudos to all the various staff, especially John Smith and Christy, who have kind of been there with us throughout all these meetings and will be with us going into 21 for those. And so I appreciate that. It's been a tough year for a lot of people on a lot of fronts. And I think we're going to find ways to try to support the community, keep supporting the community as we go forward. Relates to on a technical sense, or something that's a little bit easier to think about is we do have council members what I'd consider land management plans for a lot of the large pieces of property that we have, or at least we have some ideas about how often they're burned and mowed. But that does accept or exclude these farm leases. In essence, we've kind of passed that off to the less leaseholders. So that's something for us to think about in the future here, if we're comfortable doing that, and what role we might play in those pieces of property. So I would say, hope everybody has a healthy and happy holiday season. As you know, City Hall is open only by appointment, and it will continue to do so likely till about January 18th, when we expect to consider opening back up for walk-in traffic, and that'll depend obviously on the situation we're in at the time. And staff is obviously working and available, and we're prepared if it ever does snow again. We'll be prepared for that, but it's okay if it doesn't, as far as I'm concerned. A 2020 December without snow would be just fine, and it'd probably be par for the course given 2020 so far. I wouldn't be surprised, so we'll see how it goes. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
if I might.
go ahead.
Got a question, maybe Assistant City Administrator Stroud could answer. Give us an update on the EMS transition.
You can, or I can.
I can. I was a little slow on the button there. It's like a lag on the computer. Give me the the EMS transition continues to go well. They're continuing to build out the station and kind of, I guess, grow into service delivery here in what was the River Falls EMS service area. Just hoping to be able to include some data into your administrator report for this evening. But as Dave Madison with the lineup kind of tries to build out what reports he'll provide us, and we work with him on that to see what data fields we want and what's the best way to extrapolate some of that. I didn't get that in time for this meeting. So I can share with you, though, that for their first 2-week period, which would be the second half of November, they responded to 134 EMS incidents in what is known as the River Falls EMS service area. The average response time, so that would be from the moment that their dispatch center got the call information to the moment the ambulance arrived on scene. The average response time for non-emergency responses was 9 minutes and 8 seconds, and the average response for emergency responses was 4 minutes and 58 seconds. 98.6% of all calls within the city of River Falls were responded to within the contract requirement of 10 minutes and 59 seconds. So in our contract, we require a 90th percentile of 10:59 or less. So they met that for that initial period, 98.6. He was actually pretty frustrated. He couldn't tell me it was 100%, but that essentially was one incident where they kind of had a hiccup on a shift change, and so they learned from that. And he tells me he hopes it to be 100%, obviously, moving forward. So that's really, I guess, a quick update. I'll certainly take any specific questions you may have, but I think I don't have any bad news to report, so that's good.
That's good to hear. I'm glad that it's moving forward positively, and And I think everybody has sort of been anxious about it, and it's something new. Change is always difficult for people to handle. So glad to hear it's
Sure.
going well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Plunkett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is really a question for a city administrator. It looks like the Hudson City Council passed an ordinance tonight closing their bars at 10 p.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Hudson had become a multi-state nexus of drunken foolery, assaults, and even murder, as that community was unprepared for the influx of people from our neighboring state, as well as issues with overserving of liquor from their licensed establishments. Hudson has taken that action. What is River Falls preparing to do if we are next? And how are we going to be addressing these potential issues as a county and responsible stewards for our community, as we are part of a multi-million person metro area and being the closest open place with establishments that serve alcohol, particularly as we approach some of the most populated alcohol serving nights of the year. What are we prepared to do to deal with these issues?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Obviously, our police chief is in communication with Hudson and also with Pierce County and St. Croix County. Our situation is different. That doesn't mean that something like what happened in Hudson isn't a possibility. I think it's not a probability. The primary difference, aside from proximity, where they were, maybe right across the highway, so to speak. Pierce County has enacted 25% capacity limitation, including for our licensed establishments. The expectation that our licensed establishments will continue to observe that, which we have belief that they are observing that currently. So St. Croix County did not and does not have a capacity limitation for establishments, and so they we have reason to believe the dynamic is a little bit different, or was different. I am unclear because I don't know the basis of law that the Hudson City Council is using for their ordinance, so I'm not sure. I can't tell you what or predict what that means for us. We are paying attention. We have some ability as city organization based on the emergency powers that the council has granted, that the police chief certainly could issue some orders, and so could the mayor potentially, if we felt that was necessary. At this time, we believe that our establishments are prepared to observe the capacity limits. If they do so, then we have the ability to manage with law enforcement anything that would be coming from that capacity. It's been pretty quiet in River Falls. Our establishments, we think, are doing a good job. That's been reported to us by Pierce County also, that they believe River Falls is doing a good job. So I don't think we're not likely a place that is going to be a target for packed bars, because that's not the mode that our establishments are operating. But to be honest with you, we'll have to see how things go. And we will certainly be looking tomorrow to see what Hudson did and why they did it and how they did it. But yeah, the irresponsible use of alcohol is still a primary factor in almost in a lot of our police interactions. So we've thus far in 2020 had a pretty good year, meaning not very many interactions with irresponsible use of alcohol, because the overall use of alcohol is down in the community based on people's movement in and out of those establishments. So are we ready? We are aware and we are ready to address issues as they arise, but we'll have to see how things come along.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Simpson.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Plum.
Go ahead, Ben.
You brought up the 25% capacity issue. Does the city have any role in enforcement on there? And particularly as we approach December 31st, I'm real concerned about that issue. And what power does the city have if at any point that 25% is not being followed? Thank you.
Yeah, I want to make sure I don't wander too far from my knowledge of the situation, but I have spoken with the police chief about this and been privy to at least one communication from the health department and the county sheriff in Pierce County. So my understanding is we would take the role that we always take, which is if our officers are observing something that's clearly not in congruence with the capacity, we would be expecting to provide notice verbally to that establishment, and we would expect that there would be voluntary compliance with that after that. If it continued, then we would be taking a report as a police officer, and we would be forwarding that to the county to follow up on the actual, I guess, enforcement through their ordinance is how that would work. But again, we're not inviting people to River Falls. We're not trying to wag our fingers at folks either, but certainly we have a capable law enforcement, and so does Hudson, but the capacities that they were trying to deal with because there was no capacity limits on their establishments, that appears to be part of the issue. St. Croix County chose not to do capacity limits, and it sounds like they're not considering doing capacity limits anytime soon. So Hudson is, I guess, doing what they think they need to do. But our belief at this time is that our capacity limits are helpful in maintaining peace and order, and we would expect the establishments to continue to do that, including on the 31st. There's nothing special about the 31st as far as obeying the law.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, Mr. Gagne.
I would kind of second the sentiment from Ben on the case of what stops folks from coming to River Falls and creating havoc here. I'm a strong supporter of our downtown businesses, always have been. I've also been a strong supporter of them having personal responsibility in their liquor license and their establishments. I would hope for their own business sake that they take the proper measures to not overserve folks and not get their business or their establishment in a predicament. One, with the city council, and two, with the law. I mean, if they're over serving and allowing people to go out in the community and get into cars, and they know that this stuff is happening, and they're going well above over serving. Grandma owned a bar, grew up around it. Not necessarily my grandma doing it, but some other establishments. It can always come back and bite that business owner or establishment. So I would highly recommend and urge our local businesses to do what they need to be doing to take care of themselves, but also take care of our community as a whole. So great job so far, and hopefully they continue that.
Yep, Ms. Sodine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that I don't think we know that over-serving anybody had anything to do with the violence with the murder in Hudson this weekend. That's for their police department to figure out. And I would like to say that I'm well aware about how tough it is for local businesses, including restaurants, bars, local retailers, to hang in there during this period of time. So, to the extent that they're doing what they can, obeying the capacity restrictions and trying to hang in there, more power to them. And I hope that we can all, support them as much as we can during the next few months.
Yep, I agree. Anybody else have anything? Mr. Gagne?
I was giving a thumbs up to what Diane said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I guess that's it then.
All right. Thanks, Scott, for what you and the staff are doing. I appreciate it. We all do. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Christie, I have a first and a second to adjourn.
By Bierstadt, second by Morissette. We'll start voting with Mr. Bierstadt.
Aye.
Downing,
Aye.
Plunkett, Dean,
Aye.
yeah,
Aye.
Watts, Morissette.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christie. Okay, I guess that's it. I hope everybody has, if I don't see or talk to you, have a rest of the great year. Have a great holiday season, Christmas, whatever you might celebrate, and take care.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.